Give me another go.
Hello, Hobart. What a wonderful turnout. I'd like to kick the proceedings off by first acknowledging the sovereignty of Aboriginal people and pay sincere respects to the Aboriginal people who occupied these lands and in particular occupied Macquarie Point, which lands were never ceded by them. I want to pay a warm thank you to everyone for coming, for the organisers that worked so hard to make this happen, to our musicians and to our speakers, the best and brightest of their respective parliaments. I want to pay a big thank you and a welcome to those who have travelled from the north of the state. And I want to thank the Association of Ukrainians Tasmania who have shared this space with us this morning. As you know, our Premier talks a lot about democracy and politicians getting a vote, having the ability to override the planning process. Well, what we have here today, this is democracy. This is us expressing our voices loudly and firmly, because at the end of the day, this is what matters and this is what counts. I'd like to acknowledge some special members of the audience who are here, not in any order. Rosalie Woodruff, Leader of the Greens. Andrew Jenner, the Jackie Lambie Network. Vicar Bailey and Helen Burnett, also of the State Greens. Ruth Forrest of the Upper House, Ruth Forrest MLC. Senator Nick McKim. And elected members of the Hobart City Council. So I'm just going to skip through some organisational things now. Under the trees behind most of you is the merchandise table where you can buy hats, beanies, stickers, tote bags. I think the beanies are a good idea. This campaign's going to go into winter, so you need to think ahead and plan for the future. We have donation buckets circulating around the crowd, and we would be very grateful if you can put some money into those buckets to help fund what is an expensive campaign and will continue to be an expensive campaign until we prevail. There is also people moving through the crowd with the petition sponsored by Cassie O'Connor and by Janice Overett, calling for the Upper House to heed what's happened in the planning system and basically telling Premier Rockcliffe and his government what to do with their stadium proposal. So I encourage you all to sign up. 3,700 people have signed to date. There's going to be 4 themes for this rally. Firstly, how the AFL corporate has dominated the ALP and the Liberal Party to the point where those two parties are prepared to trash the state's planning system to get their own way. The second focus is the lack of integrity shown by the state government with its willingness to say anything and do anything to get the stadium approved. In other words, it's a masterclass in public sector mismanagement. These guys and make no mistake, they mostly are guys, are the experts. Just look at what they've done with the Spirit of Tasmania and the birthing. The third theme is the need for unity of purpose and unity in the community, which the AFL and the Premier and the Labor Party are so intent on dividing. We need to confront these powerful forces together. The fourth theme is the need for a solution to the problem the AFL and the Premier have created, and you will hear from speakers on that. These themes, like the strands of a cable, will run through all of the speeches and the entertainment. I want to talk quickly about the drum. We have a drummer here, and the drum calls people to action. It alerts people. It connects people. It encourages people to stand up for what is right. We face a monumental challenge. If the stadium was ever to be built, the loss would be felt for 2 or 3 generations in education, health, housing and more. This campaign of resistance involves taking on the AFL and its gaming industry partners who stand to profit from a stadium, as does the Murdoch empire. The drum provides a heartbeat. We feel it all. It unifies us as people and it unifies us in purpose. I'd now like to call on a special guest to introduce the next stage of these proceedings. He needs no introduction. I call on Richard Flanagan.
How wonderful to be here. What an extraordinary crowd. And what a great day. Peter Cundall once said to me, the people always get it right in Tasmania, and it's about time the Labor and Liberal Party started listening to us. As someone said to me as I was coming in, you'd get more spine in a jellyfish bloom down at Constitution Dock than you get in the... I've got a very simple task today, just to introduce the next act. 2 years ago, this campaign began with a snap rally here that drew a bigger crowd than the AFL game at Bellerive. And one of its highlights was the Roberts Brothers song, You Can Kick the Stadium Up the Bum. It went viral, it went national. It even got broadcast on the Front Row Footy Show, and no less than the man who wrote and sang Up There Kazali himself, Mr. Mike Brady, did his own not-so-good version of the song on national television. But I'm very glad to say that in the midst of their latest world tour, the Roberts Brothers, who've been playing a lot of stadiums but still don't like this one, have made time to be here today, and they've flown all the way in from Berrydale to be here. So please give a big welcome and a big hand to the Roberts Brothers.
There we go. We're on air. Lovely. Yeah, it's been hectic. But we're here and we're ready to make some noise. I said, are we ready to make some noise, Hobart? All right. Now, we want a little call and response thing going on here. I think maybe you know the words.
Yeah.
Basically, the idea is when we say bum, you say...
No, stadium.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Younger brother.
Well, whatever. You get the idea. A couple of hand claps in there would be good.
Yeah.
Up your bum, clap, clap. You get the idea.
Yeah.
We did try and get the Wiggles for this gig, but
Yeah.
they've declined to comment.
So your response is very difficult. It's up your bum.
Oh, there you go. Maestro! You can stick your stadium up your bum. That's it.
Stick your stadium up your bum.
Be quick learners.
Stick your stadium. Stick your stadium. Stick your stadium up your bum.
Should we do it again? Yeah.
Stick your stadium up your bum.
Good.
Stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium
stadium.
Stick your stadium. Stick your stadium up your bum.
Lovely. We don't need another stadium, you see. A stadium's not our priority. There's people living in a tent who can't afford the rent. You know where you can stick it, Jeremy? You can stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium. Stick your stadium. Stick your stadium up your bum. Woo! Now Mac Point is really a disgrace. A hospital was floated, but that sunk without a trace. So if you're looking for direction for your stadium erection, Jeremy, we got just the place. You can stick your stadium up your bum. Up your bum. Stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium. Stick your stadium. Stick your stadium up your bum. This is the sensitive bit. Now, Jeremy, not everyone thinks you're square. There's Andrew Dillon, Rupert Murdoch, the whole Labor Party. Well, they love you, to be fair. You've so pleased the AFL, not to mention News Corp and Foxtel. So bend over, Jeremy, if there's any room up there. You can stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium. Stick your stadium, stick your stadium all the way up your bum. You can stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium up your bum. Big finish now. You can stick your stadium, stick your stadium, stick your stadium up your bum. Thank you, Hobart. Keep those voices going, keep that applause going. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Roberts Brothers. I want you to give them a big round of applause. I want to share an anecdote. I went to the dawn service at the Hobart Cenotaph on the 25th of April. I was standing in a crowd of maybe 1,000 people. It was dark, it was pretty quiet, and next to me was an old digger proudly displaying a chest full of medals. He was talking to his mate, and in the course of the conversation, I heard him say that bloody AFL should be hung for what they're doing to Tassie. And he knew what the AFL and Premier Rockcliffe were going to do to the Cenotaph. The Hobart Cenotaph needs every champion it can find to try and preserve its existence and the importance that has been documented over such a long period of time. One of the Hobart Cenotaph's biggest champions and a champion for veterans is Senator Jackie Lambie. Come on up, Jackie.
Righto. I'll pass it back. G'day guys, thanks for having me here. Good on ya. I might as well make it quite clear, win or lose, I'm a bloody Tasmanian. I ain't moving on this bloody stadium because he can stick a therapy's bum. I ain't moving, that's my right. I can tell you in my neck of the woods, I've been getting the message loud and clear on that northwest coast. And they're making it loud and clear. They're standing their ground. My voters don't want this bloody stadium, and we're not moving. We have one of the best grounds in the country, and it's called York Park. It's called York Park. There are options out there to put a tent over the bloody thing. Look at the way the rest of the world is going. I'm not kidding. These things go up, they flap out. Ask Eddie Maguire, because he told me about them, and I've been looking at them. Get on to Maguire, tell him to get down here and help us. Tell him to get down here and help us. No good sitting on his footy show. I need his help, Tasmanians. Tell him to get down here and fight with us. Instead of doing this properly, the Liberal government and the AFL girl got together on some frothies, we know that. What a way to do billions and millions of dollars for a deal. Add a few more, baby. By the way, we'll have a strippers club over here, and we'll have this over here. I mean, come on, you couldn't make this stuff up. Fair income. If the AFL was a truly national sporting organisation, we would have had our own bloody team years ago, with or without a stadium. They don't give a shit about Tasmania. They don't care about Tasmania. Tasmanians don't deserve to be blackmailed by the AFL or the Tasmanian Liberal government. Tell the Tasmanian Liberal government, we don't live in a dictatorship in Tasmania. We live in a democracy. Tell them. And the disrespect. Break my bloody heart. You really want to piss me off. You really want to piss me off. And this is why Liberal and Labor is our bloody cenotaph. Blood, sweat and tears, my mates, and I've lost them and you're pissing around with our cenotaph. How disrespectful to every veteran who has served this goddamn country. Enough! Vicar Bailey, mate, thanks for your support as you do with the Greens, and they support our bloody veterans. I see David Shoebridge up there fighting for them day and night. Doesn't get enough kudos for us, but I want to tell you, some of those things I've got through those veterans, David Shoebridge has been standing with me. He's a smart one. You know, he's got the lawyer's thing. So thank you, David Shoebridge. Vicar Bailey, you put them out, mate. You put it up there, and you put Labor and showed them where they stood. They got no courage, and they got no bloody balls, mate. Have they, Vicar? No balls. They rolled over like a dog with the Liberal Party. And the Premier's rolled gold promise. Yeah, it gets better, doesn't it, guys? Gets better. Rolled gold promise of not spending one cent above $370 million. Well, you blew that out your ass this week, mate. It's all over. Anyone who knows about this infrastructure knows the cost blowout, but this government only knows spin. Say what you can get out of trouble that day and keep barrelling on. Keep doing it, big boy. We'll wait to you. You would think that we would give the government pause, but oh no, instead they're ripping up the rule book again, once again playing dictatorship. Not going through the planning process, disgraceful. Disgraceful, what sort of leadership is that? And now they're going to push through a bill to get this stadium built and threatening Tasmania's MPs that it will be their fault if they don't get it up again. It's your fault, Rockcliffe. It's your fault. It's Gutwin's fault from having bloody frothies, mate. That's all it comes down to. And you got left with the baggage, Jeremy. Have the guts to drop the baggage, Jeremy. You don't need to carry it for Gutwin. You don't need to, mate. Thanks to the independents, the Green MPs showing their courage. When we decide we're doing so, we don't sit on the fence and try to get votes from both ends and end up coming unstuck. If we're with you from the start, we're with you through to the finish. Let's be open. Once again, sorry, where's the Labor Party? Where's this big leader? All right, I want to make it quite clear. I can smell it. We've about got Rockcliffe by the balls. So keep bloody squeezing. Keep squeezing. And Premier, you can stick that stadium far up your bloody bum. Come on. Come on.
Thank you very much, Jackie. This is a defining moment for Tasmania. We are facing a situation where in about May of 2023, our Premier and the then CEO of the AFL both acknowledged as experts in planning and environmental protection, got together and played a game of pin the tail on the donkey and decided that the spot was Macquarie Point was where they were going to put a stadium. And ever since then, they have been trying to justify that fateful decision. They have lied and lied about it. They've lied about a cap for how much money they were going to put into it, lied about the height being not more than 40 metres, lied about public-private partnerships, all the way through. And where is the private equity? Well, the reason there's no private equity is this stadium proposal is not going to produce anything. It's going to be vacant most of the time. It's a dead duck. It has no social licence and it's not going to work. So back to the lies. Do we let them get away with the lies, or do we demand of the government? Do we demand of the government and the major opposition party that they display integrity and responsibility? In yesterday's paper, an ALP politician was quoted as saying, "Faith in politicians is at an all-time low." That statement would be correct if it read, "Faith in Liberal and Labor politicians is at an all-time low." They are trashing their own brand. I now want to introduce a politician we can all have faith in, another champion of integrity and responsibility in government, the member for Clark, Christy Johnson. Make her welcome.
Thank you very much, Roland. It is a privilege to be here and amazing to see Tasmanians come out and let our government and opposition know exactly how they feel. Expert after expert has confirmed what we already knew or strongly suspected. The stadium's costs are grossly underestimated, its benefits overstated, and it's already showing the hallmarks of mismanagement. I said those words at the last Stadium Town Hall meeting back in late February, and I had hoped that with so much evidence on the table and overwhelming community opposition, common sense would prevail. However, since then, darker days have descended and we've stooped to new lows in our parliament. The Premier has declared he's abandoning the project of state significance process because he doesn't like his chances of getting his stadium through. Shame on him. A few days ago, he started seemingly blackmailing members of parliament that if they don't vote for his alternative process, so-called enabling legislation, there will be no team. Shame on him. And 2 days ago, the minister in charge of the stadium, Eric Abetz, was forced to apologise for misleading Parliament when he tried to argue the Premier has said all along that the stadium would require $375 million asterisk as well as borrowings. He lied to Tasmanians. What utter and insulting rubbish from them, as well as lumbering the state with staggering debt, trashing our democracy. This government now wants to treat us all as fools. But are we going to accept this? No, we're not. Sadly, we have come to expect this from the government. Their level of incompetence regarding the Spirits was unparalleled until the stadiums came along. But what I find really insulting is Labor's position on the stadium. Because let's face it, when it comes to the stadium, Labor have had more positions than a Kama Sutra book. And however, just like in a Kama Sutra book, whichever way you look at it, we're being screwed over. They started off before the election saying they oppose the stadium. Remember the stickers? Then after the election, the truth started to come out. they changed their mind and would support a stadium, but it had to be capped at $375 million, like that was ever going to happen. And now their position is on unconditional support. They're going to fake scrutiny by asking a few questions, but at the end of the day, they are liberal light and are willing to vote for it no matter what. It is a blatant betrayal of their supporters and the community who need an effective opposition. With Parliament now due to vote on the stadium, this week I gave Parliament, all lower house members, MPs, the opportunity to state on the record their line in the sand on the stadium. At what cost, under what conditions would they say it is too much? Is it a price tag that exceeds $1 billion, 1.2, 1.5, $2 billion? Is it a crippling level of state debt that will burden Tasmanians for future generations? Is it the fact that the stadium is so big, barely anything else will fit on the site? Is it the risk to health and safety in construction and possibly afterwards of building such a structure on contaminated land? Is it the issues with stormwater or the risk to pedestrian safety when 23,000 people try to exit through narrow pinch points? Is it the unforgivable impact on the sacred cenotaph? Is it the blatant and disrespectful abuse of experts and processes of democracy? Is it the bordering on unlawfully blackmailing of members of Parliament? It came as no surprise the government said, the sky's the limit, we'll do nothing and stop at nothing to get our stadium. Essentially, no cost is too much, no risk is too much, no discomfort is too much, no amount of trashing of planning schemes, public consultation, proper process is too much. Apparently for the government, we must sacrifice all before the AFL altar. But what did the Labor Party say? What was their line in the sand? This was their opportunity. They said they have no line in the sand. Labor is prepared to sign a blank cheque, no matter what the cost, no matter the scale of engineering issues, no matter the many community concerns. Labor will support the stadium no matter the cost. They're not going to oppose the project in any way. Sure, they might ask some questions about it, maybe even some that embarrass the government and show the stadium up to be the true disaster that it is. But at the end of the day, they're still going to vote with the government. They were very vocal about the Spirits debacle, but they're not bringing their voice to this. A debacle on a much bigger scale, and one that they can prevent. They are now collaborators in the greatest threat to Tasmania's economic future, and one that is trashing our democracy along with it. So while the two major parties want to degrade our publicly owned waterfront, our planning schemes, our economy and our democracy, all to keep AFL happy, we don't have to take it. Are we going to let them do this to us? No, we are not. We can take back our power. You can write, phone, use social media to flood their inboxes and feed them with messages. We don't want a stadium. Tell Labor that we will hold them responsible if this project goes ahead. Tell them that they can no longer be an opposition missing in action. They must act now. I believe in people power. We've done it before here in Tasmania with the Franklin Dam, the pulp mill, and we can do it again. Let's take back our power from the Laborials and the AFL. Let's say yes to truth. Let's say yes to democracy. Let's say yes to Tasmania's bright future. Let's tell Labor it's time to do their bloody job.
Thank you, Christy. The Liberal government and the ALP want us to think that a stadium at Mack Point is inevitable and that there is no point in resisting it. Well, they are so wrong. We will resist all the way. And there are many reasons this stadium is never going to be constructed, even if it was to get through the Parliament. In any event, our next speaker is Meg Webb. who faces election in the seat of Nelson on the 24th of May. I want to thank Meg for taking time out from door knocking and resting her knuckles for the morning. Here at our place, we don't usually do special introductions for speakers, but in the circumstances, as Meg is a very strong No Stadium candidate who's speaking here today, we have a very brief musical introduction. Back to the Roberts Brothers.
All right. Thanks, Roland.
Someone's going to be knocking on Nelson's doors.
Apparently.
Apparently. So you can sing along with us because it's a subtle variation on an old song.
A little bit of Bob Dylan. This is a verse that he didn't use in the original song, but...
Mystically.
Yeah. Now, Rocket, keep your stadium in the ground. Rocky, we don't need your stadium around. Yeah. Knocking on Nelson's doors. Knocking on Nelson's doors. Yeah, we're knocking on Nelson's doors. Knocking on Nelson's doors. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Meg Webb.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Roland. And thank you all for being here today. How fantastic to be here with you all. The thing that strikes me is we're here with thousands of people who care deeply. They care deeply about our state, our capital city, and our democracy. Yes, thank you. And what a disgraceful position we find ourselves in here today. It's a disgrace that citizens have to rally like this to stand up against a state government and a premier who should be the responsible caretaker of our state and our democracy, but instead is prepared to wreak havoc on them. This is a consistent theme here. The consistent theme since day one for this AFL-demanded Mac Point Stadium is that it's been an utterly dodgy process. It is a declaration of failure by the Premier when we see him continually having to change the rules on the run every stage of this whole debacle. It is at every stage that this Premier and his government are caught out, misleading, obfuscating, time and time again, promising one thing and doing another, pretending, gaslighting Tasmanians that that's always what they were going to do. Rubbish. It's shameful, it's gaslighting. It's an utterly dodgy process. It's one that has had no evidence of any open, honest, responsible decision-making. No evidence of good faith consultation with Tasmanians in an accountable democratic process that we should be seeing. All of the decisions made in relation to this stadium have been through unaccountable, undemocratic, deceitful processes. Shame. But this is our state, this is our capital city, and this should be our choice. Yeah. And instead of that, what we see at every turn is evidence of desperate, self-serving political expediency from this government and this Premier. The Premier used the State of Project Significance process when it suited him to placate crossbenchers who defected from his party. And now, when that process comes out with a damningly critical draft report, the Premier's throwing that unfinished process into the bin. And in doing so, he is depriving the MPs who work here in this place, depriving them of the expert, independent advice that should form the basis of any vote on this that we ultimately have on this issue. This is a dodgy, self-serving corruption of our democracy. There has been a cataclysmic failure of government leadership right from the get-go over this controversial AFL deal. And it's only going to get worse as the government gets more and more desperate. And let's be very clear whose fault that is. The current community division, the frustration, the looming threat of financial disaster for our state for decades to come is of the Premier's own making. A true and fearless political leader would seek to unify our community, not resort to emotional blackmail and gaslighting to justify broken promises. A true and fearless political leader would seek to unify us. How dare the Premier of this state hold our team, our promised team, to ransom in this way? Shame. How dare he hold its fate over our heads of the community, of the Legislative Council, and emotionally blackmail people into legitimising his egregious error in signing up to his secret deal with the AFL. A true leader would not pick fights with the community representatives. A true leader would not gleefully be pitting sections of our community against each other. A true leader would not interfere with the independent project of state significance process, but would respect our parliamentary vote that sent the project there in the first place and now allow it to be completed. But there is an alternative here, everyone. There is an alternative if there is a political will. We saw that to be true when the Rosny community stood up and raised concerns over that proposed location. Well done. The Rosny community defended their parkland, and we saw, what did we see? A successful renegotiation. We saw that while it might not have been the AFL's first choice, the Kingston Sports Precinct is an excellent location for that high-performance facility for the AFL. It is welcomed there by the community. It will benefit the community, and we welcome it. And that goes to show what can be achieved through renegotiation when our community's interests are put first. It is our state, it is our capital city, and it is our choice. Renegotiation is our way forward. It's the only way for a united front. The AFL brand is already being damaged here in this state and in this country. It would be massively damaging to the AFL brand to turn us away from a renegotiation, to turn around then and rip our team away from us, a team that has 200,000 plus sign-up supporters, a team that's already growing, that's already developing its identity, facilities, staffing and supporter base. If the Premier fails us here and doesn't take us to renegotiation, shame on him, because renegotiation is the only way forward to preserve our team and prevent enormous social and financial harm to our state. The Premier's attempts to bully and intimidate and coerce and railroad MLCs in this parliament is nothing short of disgraceful. Upper house independence, in particular, will be the chance for community voice to be heard here. So I encourage all of you to be in contact with all MLCs to make your views clear and ask that they put our community interests first, because it's our state, it's our capital city, and it's our choice. What is it? It's our choice.
Thank you, Meg. Our next speaker is Craig Garland, who hails from the electorate of Braddon. Craig has a background in fishing, small business. But since his election, he's needed to develop a very different skill set to represent his electorate. He now has considerable skills in assessing massive budget blowouts, such as the Spirit Wharf debacle, costing, we're told now, up to $500 million. Craig's become familiar with major project mismanagement and in the way of the Spirit replacement. He's become very skilled at assessing and understanding governmental incompetence for a list that's too long for me to give. And he's also well versed in understanding corporate capture of governments, and the AFL is a very good example. Craig has risen to the occasion brilliantly. He knows that this Liberal government and major projects are a toxic combination. Please welcome him.
Thanks for this opportunity to come and speak today. Roland, I sound a bit overqualified from that introduction. But what I do have is an extensive background in football. And one thing I know is, if you had to run out on the field with that crowd in there, and the AFL had the ball under their arm and were running towards you, the biggest player on the field, you wouldn't get them fronting up. You have to stand up to bullies. And the AFL, I've just been listening lately, the Pope talking about unity. Anthony Albanese talking about unity. And the AFL talking about giving us a side. Look at the disunity here today. They've divided this state at a time when we should be all together and embracing and acknowledging what it means to get our own AFL side. What football has taught me, it is a game of life. You don't shirk the hard ball, you look out for your teammates, and you do what needs to be done to have success. And Roland is right. I cannot believe the oversight, the ignorance, the lack of thought. What you have here in this state is a group of bullies sitting at a table, making their own direction where they want to take things and leaving the community out and leaving us to the last minute to let us know what's going on. Then we get up, we protest. They don't know how to unify this state. They are cowards, they don't know what to do, they won't do what needs to be done, and both of them are playing the safe game at the moment. Labor don't want to come up and speak out against this because the Liberals will be saying, oh, you stopped us from getting an AFL side. Liberals signed up to a rotten deal that has put us under so much pressure at a time, our budget, that's another thing I've learned, you know. As a fisherman, you don't go out buying a big shiny new boat when you're seriously in debt. And I'll tell you another thing, a big shiny new boat and a big Dodge Ram towing it around doesn't make you a fisherman. It doesn't guarantee that you will catch fish. And success on the footy field is putting your body on the line, it's looking after your teammates and doing what needs to be done. And Tasmanians, we are sick to death of being dictated to by corporations, by out-of-touch governments. And the AFL, they are a failure. They have not delivered a true national competition. Until they give us our side, they won't. And all we are asking, give us our side. For God's sake, we played football on Queenstown on gravel. All you need is a pair of boots, a bit of pigskin with a bit of air in it, and a couple of sticks at either end of the ground, and away you go. So where to from here? I would call on the AFL, stop your bully-boying tactics, acknowledge the situation here. I just got briefed by the Hobart City Council yesterday. My God, the oversights with just building this big project, they haven't factored in the stormwater. They're going to collect rainwater off the roof so they can supply that to flush the toilets in the place. The lighting, there's going to have to be more extensive there, 200 odd truck movements of contaminated soil. It is wrong location, and more importantly, it is the wrong time. We are in a budget crisis. And Tasmanians know better than anybody how to cut costs, how to make do, use your worn-out tools to get to the stage where you can have a new stadium. I don't have a problem with a stadium in Hobart. I think it's a great idea, but not being dictated to by an AFL entity of bully boys, you know, and not right now. Give us our side. Let our youth get caught up in it. I know what football means, you know. Football is simple. It's all about opportunity, application, and away you go. And what it means for the far northwest, you might have seen the 8% swing up there away from the Liberal Party, a strong Liberal Party seat. That went to Labor. If that's not telling them a loud message, I've never seen that before in my life. People are sick to death at my end of the state of being ignored, not being thought of, and that has to change. And I think I'm done.
Thank you, Craig. We're running a little bit over time. I just want to make mention that there's a merchandise table in the middle of the gardens for you all to get hold of our wonderful hats, stickers, beanies and the like. Our next speaker is Cassie O'Connor. And I'd like you to bear with me because there's a few comments I'd like to make before Cassie's called up to speak. Craig spoke eloquently about the budget crisis. Those of you who saw the Mercury this morning would have seen a story about patients in the Royal Hobart Hospital having to get their food by calling Uber Eats. Can you believe it? 2025 in Hobart, the major hospital. And we're going to see a budget crisis. Now, Tasmania has an unhappy history with major projects. In recent years, of course, the Gunns pulp mill fell over. But in the 1960s and 1970s, and bear with me here, in the 1960s and the 1970s, the Tasmanian Parliament funneled huge amounts of money into building dams and associated infrastructure. That may or may not have been a good thing at the time. It certainly led to the Pedder impoundment as one unnecessary expenditure. But what happened was that the money that went into building those huge dams and that infrastructure was all at the expense of other parts of the Tasmanian economy. Money was sucked out of health, housing, education. And the point that I want to make is that it was sucked out of the child welfare system. And we saw through that period government oversight of those children who were made wards of the state, put into care by the church, state-run institutions, private homes, all preyed on as vulnerable children and sexually abused. And the cost of that is being paid now. The government budget papers reveal that they're paying out $650 million in compensation, well-deserved compensation to those people that survived. But it's a consequence of a mismanagement of a budget and a ridiculous expenditure, and that's what we're going to see here if this stadium goes ahead, with them wanting to pour in $1.86 billion plus into the stadium over 10 years. Anyway, Cassie O'Connor has great major project experience, having battled the Ralphs Bay Canal estate in 2008 and 2010. Cassie delivered the eulogy for the Ralphs Bay Canal estate in 2010, and she is a leading contender to deliver the eulogy for the Mac Point Stadium when the time arrives. Cassie.
Thank you, Roland. Good afternoon, you defenders of our great city, Nipaluna, Hobart, and our beautiful island, Lutruwita, Tasmania. It is such a joy and so heartening to see so many of you, and we are here to fight for Tasmania's future, because that's what this is. It is a fight for Tasmania's future. A future where we're not saddled with extra debt, where our government looks after the best interests of the Tasmanian people, not the suits at the AFL. And I'm sure we can all agree the AFL has treated Tasmania like dirt. So here today, we represent the majority of Tasmanians, the people Jeremy Rockliff and his government and Dean Winter and his Labor Party are giving the middle finger to. So I've done a bit of door knocking in the past month, and it's fair to say the level of anger in the community about this stadium is palpable and it's just growing. Overwhelmingly, when you ask them, the people we're elected to serve want public money invested in public good. They want public money invested in well-funded public hospitals. They don't want patients at the Royal Hobart Hospital having to order food via Uber Eats because there's not enough food at the hospital because a political choice was made. They want public money invested in our children and in our schools. They want public money invested in making sure our people have secure, affordable homes. They want action on climate and environmental repair. Do they want a multi-billion-dollar stadium over its lifetime, an extra $2 billion at least in state debt over the next decade, and an eyesore in a rare and precious heritage precinct on the waterfront? No. Do we? No. This is a project that is built on a crumbling bedrock of broken promises and lies, and we've heard some of them, but I'm just going to tick through a few very quickly. We were told, the Greens were told, when we signed up to be part of a tripartisan push for the team, that the stadium was not part of the deal. Lie. We were told, Tasmanians were told, that this deal is a good deal for Tasmanians. Lie. When he called the 2024 election a year early, Jeremy Rockliff told Tasmanians this stadium would cost them $375 million and not 1 red cent more. Lie. We were told that the private sector would cover any funding shortfall. Lie. We were told there'd be an independent planning assessment that'd be allowed to run its course. We were told Tasmanians will have their say. Well, we are here today though, aren't we? We were told that Parliament would have its say on the project of state significance. Instead, what we've got is a corrupt fast-track approval bill built on slurring Dr. Nicholas Gruen and the independent panel of experts, justified by cooked-up, alleged legal advice that was paid for by Mac Point Development Corporation and edited by the Secretary of Premier and Cabinet. And the Greens had it confirmed in question time this week. No private partners want to invest in this dud. So all the millions and millions of extra red cents that this project needs will be funded by debt. It'll be funded by us and our kids and our grandkids. We won't have it. And so that is why the Greens in the House of Assembly this week on Tuesday exercised a right and responsibility we do very rarely. We moved no confidence in the Premier, Jeremy Rockliff. Who could have confidence in a Premier who is so loose with the truth and public money? Labor, of course, stood by him. So, it'll be up to the crossbench and the Greens to stand for the future. And ultimately, given Labor's craven capitulation, it'll be up to the upper house to save Tasmania from this folly, and it is our collective job to help MLCs make the right decision. Jeremy Rockliff and Dean Winter need just 2 independent MLCs to back the approval bill, and it passes. And so what message did the Premier send to the LegCo this past week? No charm offensive, just an offensive attempt to blackmail the Legislative Council. Back our illegitimate bill, delivered without a mandate, or the team is gone. What an arsehole. If we lose the Devils, it's on Jeremy Rockcliffe, who made a complete hash of this from the beginning, and a weak, cynical Labor opposition led, in inverted commas, by Dean Winter. So it doesn't have to come to that, as we know. We're being offered a false choice between the team we've earned and deserve and have fought for decades and the stadium we don't want and can't afford. We've got 2 months. The government wants to have this fast-track approval legislation through both houses by July. So today, the Greens are asking you, please, to sign our petition. Janice Overett is the principal petitioner, a champion for our city and democracy. We're at nearly 4,000 signatures and we've only just got started. And the petition calls on the Legislative Council to do 3 things. Reject the illegitimate stadium fast-track legislation. Allow the independent planning experts to do their job. And call on the Premier and the Rockcliffe government to renegotiate the terms with the AFL. Because as we know, any contract can be renegotiated. We're also coming up to Legislative Council elections next weekend. Is that right, Meg? Where's Meg? The one after. 2 weeks from now. 24th. Thanks, Rose. And you've got some important choices to make there if you live in the electorates of Pembroke, Montgomery and Nelson. And I want to give a shout out to our Greens candidates from those 3 electorates who are here today. Nathan Wolf is our candidate for Nelson. Darren Briggs, Dr. Darren Briggs from the Northwest Coast, is our candidate for Montgomery. And the wonderful Carly Allen is our candidate in Pembroke. How we vote in these Legislative Council elections will make a difference. So, we have to pull out all and every stop. We are pulling out every possible stop to save Tasmania from this madness. We stand with you and we stand together. I do want to just let everyone know, if you're sick of seeing those bloody stickers, yes team, yes stadium. Yes team, no new stadium. And we'd really appreciate it if you could please pick up one of these stickers and pop it on your car, at least for the next couple of months. We absolutely can win this battle with people power. And if all else fails, and there are 2 upper house independents prepared to vote for this massive mistake, we'll see you in the trenches at Macquarie Point. And that's a promise. But let's make sure it doesn't come to that. Together, we can win this. Let's go.
Thank you, Cassie. When Cassie O'Connor warns that she's going to see people in the trenches, we know she's a person of her word. Our next speaker is Andrew Wilkie. He needs no introduction, but when I talk about Andrew, I like to talk in numbers. A 3.6% swing at the recent election and over 70% of the vote in Clark. Andrew is another champion of integrity who solidly opposed the stadium from the get-go. I now introduce Mr. 70%.
I'm sorry,
You thought you were rid of me. But apparently I'm back by popular demand. Now, look, I'm the sixth and last speaker, and this is a very, very tough gig, and we've already been standing here for a good hour. So my challenge to you is to let's finish this very big rally on a high. I want to hear lots of voices. If you think I say something worth cheering, then let me know that, please. Now, let's start with the question. Who thinks Tasmania is really precious? Who thinks that Tasmania has so much social, environmental and economic potential that we must do everything we can to protect it and do everything we can to resist inappropriate projects? But who is feeling distressed at the moment at the prospect of a third, not a first, not a second, but a third AFL stadium in a state of 500,000 people, a stadium that we obviously don't need, obviously can't afford, and obviously don't want? Now, it's hard when you come up last to say something fresh and compelling. But I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a go because I think this is an important point to make. I reckon the stadium is not the problem in itself. I think this stadium is a symptom of something even more distressing, the complete and utter collapse of governance in Tasmania right now. Now, those of you who are students of Greek will appreciate me describing Tasmania as a kakistocracy. Apparently that was the Economist word of the year last year, kakistocracy, and it became a popular word after the first reign of President Donald Trump. Well, I reckon Tasmania is a kakistocracy, there we go, which is known as a government by the worst, least qualified and most unscrupulous people. The problem we've got is that all of the essential building blocks of a healthy democracy are failing us right now. For a start, they lie to us constantly and treat us like fools. They have no respect for us. And they have no respect for the rule of law. Fancy that. Alleging a government has no respect for the rule of law. And we saw just in this last week, at least one member of the Legislative Council observe that the way the government is intimidating legislative councillors could be a serious crime under Tasmanian state law, but they go ahead and they do it. There is no respect for proper process, and that's been teased out in some detail this morning. Heavens, just ignoring the Planning Commission interim report. That is just mind-bogglingly arrogant. It is a sign of a dictatorship, or at least an elected dictatorship. It is not the sign of an elected government that respects us. And you know, one of the most important building blocks of a healthy democracy is to have a strong and effective alternative government. One that takes the fight up to the government, one that scrutinises it, one that gives us an alternative. Because if you don't have an alternative government, you do have an elected dictatorship. And in this state right now, the Labor so-called opposition is completely and utterly spineless and useless. For the Labor Party to come out a couple of weeks ago and to say
They support the stadium unconditionally, regardless of all reports and any advice that it's a bad idea. That's the Labor Party's word, unconditional support. And somewhat at risk to my own political future, I will single out another important building block of a healthy democracy, and that's an effective media. But what to make of the fact that in the last couple of weeks, the footy club saying nothing more than, yeah, we want and need a stadium, was a front page story in the Mercury again. But yet when I opened the Mercury this morning, buried on page 4 is a poll done by Federal Group, which has flagged very significant concerns about the cost and cost blowout of the stadium, and pointing out that a vast majority of Tasmanians polled are very unhappy with the way proper process has been completely trashed. That's by the Federal Group, for heaven's sakes. Mind you, while I'm getting stuck into the Merc, there's also a puff piece today, and this goes more, not so much the Mercury or the media, but it goes to the way we do politics in this state these days. There's a puff piece about a Legislative Council candidate who received $3,000 in cash in a brown paper bag in his letterbox, and he's going to spend it, and the Mercury are applauding him. Hey, but look, it doesn't have to be like this. And I'll make this my concluding remark, because I do want to finish on a very positive note, and deservedly a very positive note. When we look at history, we see the fortunes of governance and governments and a public policy and public administration. It does come and go like the tide. But when you study history and you look at the trend line, it always slowly improves. The world is a better place now than it was 100 years ago. The world is a better place now than it was 200 years ago. The world is a better place now than it was 300 years ago. History shows that if you keep fighting, eventually you will win. And the day you stop fighting, they win.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We're going to finish now. We're just going to have a reprise from the Roberts brothers. Before we get to that point, there's just a couple of things I'd like to say. As has been highlighted through the speeches, the government and the Labor Party want us to think it's inevitable, want us to think that this stadium is going to be built, and the message that's clearly coming from the community is go back, wrong way. We have been down this road many times before. The Gordon Below Franklin Dam was a product of the Liberal and Labor Party duopoly. That never got built. The Gunns Pulp Mill, another major project. Where's that? Never got built. The obnoxious Ralphs Bay Canal Estate, product of Labor and eventually support from the Liberal Party, never got built. And it comes down to the community standing up and presenting our voice loudly to government. One way we can do that is by this rally with this wonderful turnout today. There is also the petition that Cassie O'Connor is sponsoring in the upper house. That's a way to get the message through. Importantly, we also need to be being vocal with those upper house members who have an important decision to make when this legislation gets to the Parliament. And we will do that in a polite way. We're going to do it in a dignified way. We're not going to be threatening them, but we're going to be saying very clearly just how disastrous it's going to be. Finally, I'd like to say there are going to be a series of things rolling out in coming weeks about the stadium, more information, more presentations, and the campaign is going to roll on until Cassie O'Connor or whomever is invited to deliver the eulogy. Back to the Roberts brothers. Thank you.
Got a very special verse for the song that's hot off the press, written by none other than Richard Flanagan.
Yes.
We've only just seen it. We'll have a crack at it, but then you'll know the chorus.
Okay. I don't know what sort of songwriter he is. We'll soon see. Now, Rocky keeps losing parliamentary seats. Now that the sick have to order Uber Eats. Because Rocky's Stadium is as popular as Dutton's Radium. And Labor keeps singing a song of deceit. You can stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium, stick your stadium. Stick your stadium all the way up your bum. You can stick your stadium up your bum. Stick your stadium up your bum. You can stick your stadium, stick your stadium, stick your stadium up your bum. Thank you, Hobart. You can hum that one on the way home.
Thank you so much, everybody. That's the conclusion of today's event. Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day.